Have you ever looked around at people your age or at your time in life and thought to yourself, how is everyone so far ahead of me? Maybe they've got what seems like stable careers. Maybe they seem financially secure now. Maybe they seem organized, confident, better put together. And meanwhile, you're thinking, how does life feel so much harder for me? Why is it so much harder? If you have ADHD, you're not imagining that feeling. And today we're going to talk about why so many people with ADHD feel behind in life and why that feeling may actually come from the way your ADHD brain develops and works. The feeling of being behind. A lot of adults with ADHD describe the same experience. You start projects and don't finish them. You set goals but struggle to follow through. You watch other people move forward in life while you're still trying to figure things out. And over time, that can create this painful internal story. Maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I'm just not disciplined. Maybe everyone else has just figured out life and I didn't. It just escaped me. I missed it. But here's the truth. ADHD doesn't just affect your attention. It affects something much, much deeper. It affects something called executive function. Executive function is the system in your brain that helps you plan, organize, manage tasks, start tasks, regulate your emotions, stay focused on long-term goals. When those systems struggle, life itself becomes harder to manage. Not because you lack intelligence, you're probably actually very smart. Most people with ADHD are. But because your brain processes motivation, time, and priorities differently. The development gap. One thing researchers have found is that the ADHD brain tends to develop differently over time. Some brain regions involved in planning, impulse control, and decision making may develop later than average. That doesn't mean they never develop. It just means that the timeline might be different. So imagine this. You're 25, 30, or even 40, and you're comparing yourself to people whose brains developed along a different path. Of course, that might feel like you're behind because the systems that help people organize life may have taken longer to strengthen your brain. Why ADHD brains work differently. Another piece of the puzzle is motivation. Many ADHD researchers describe ADHD as a condition where your brain responds strongly to certain kinds of stimulation. Things like interest, novelty, challenge, urgency. But it struggles to activate motivation for tasks that feel routine and distant. Which means something important but boring like paperwork, long-term planning, or budgeting can feel almost impossible to start. Not because you don't care, of course you care, but because the brain system that activates motivation doesn't fire the same way in your brain unless it's, again, something interesting or novel. And over time, that can create a pattern of inconsistent progress, which feeds that feeling of falling behind. New research on ADA brains. Research is also beginning to show that ADHD brains may not all be the same. Some recent brain imaging studies suggest that there may actually be different physical patterns in ADHD brains, even within ADHD. For example, a study highlighted by PsycPost, PsyPost, examined MRI scans of people with ADHD and found evidence of distinct brain structure patterns, suggesting there may be multiple biological subtypes of ADHD. In some individuals, certain brain areas involved in attention and coordination showed increased gray matter, while others showed reduced gray matter across multiple regions associated with attention and behavior control. This may help explain why ADHD can look differently in different people or from person to person. Some people struggle mainly with focus. Others struggles more with impulsivity. Man, words are hard. Impulsivity or hyperactivity. But the key takeaway is this: ADHD isn't just a behavioral issue. There are real neurological differences, physical neurological differences in the brain. And those differences can affect how people move through life, the emotional impact. The hardest part of ADHD often isn't the symptoms, it's the self judgment that grows around them. Years of missed deadlines, forgotten responsibilities, feeling like you're always trying to catch up can create a deep, deep sense of shame. Adding that with your rejection, sensitivity, dysmorphia, and that shame is even stronger. But here's something important to remember: ADHD does not mean you're incapable. You're very capable, but it means your brain operates with a different system for attention, motivation, and planning. And when you understand that system, things can actually start to change. Reframing the story. Feeling behind in life is incredibly common amongst people with ADHD, but being on a different timeline doesn't mean you're failing. It means your path just looks different. Many people with ADHD eventually discover strengths that don't always show up in traditional ways. Things like creativity, problem solving, adaptability, the ability to think in unexpected ways. We're incredibly creative. We notice patterns. When things ramp up with stress, we get calm. Now, mind you, the other side of the equation is when it's calm, we get kind of chaotic. But we're great in emergencies. We're great in crisis situations. And we're great at finding solutions. And when people learn how their brain works, they can start building systems that actually work with their brains instead of against it. If you've ever felt like you're behind in life because of your ADHD, I want you to hear this and really hear this. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not failing at life. Your brain simply works differently. And understanding that difference is the first step towards building a life that actually fits and fits you, not everyone else. It fits you. Because at the end of the day, you're not defective. You're not alone. You're just human. If this video resonated with you, consider subscribing for more conversations about ADHD, mental health, and learning how to live better with your brain. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever felt like ADHD made you feel behind? Let's talk about it.